You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could.
And welcome everybody, we're here again for another live stream roadshow with the amazing Flying Shark Media. I'm Caroline Wragg, and it is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to the amazing Jan Carpenter from Leaf and founder of Turnover New Leaf, havening practitioner, wellbeing extraordinaire. And, Jan, when I first met you, we were, working with you, and you were working as a social worker and wellbeing practitioner, coach, and endless things. You're an author, you're a father, you're a husband. My goodness, I don't know how you have time, but however, you're a master at your trade. And, it's our great pleasure to welcome you here today. And we can't wait to hear about your creations with your Leaf model and the havening and what that's all about. So please tell us how you got into all this.
Well, before I tell you about myself, I'd just like to share a little bit about my Leaf model. So Turnover New Leaf, and Leaf means let go, empower, act and flourish. And this is a well-being model, a resilience building and well-being model. And let go means letting go of things that aren't working, unhelpful emotions, letting go of unhelpful thoughts, behaviour patterns, habits. And empower is about actually raising your awareness about your strengths and being clear about what it is that you do want in life and work and in business. And act is about, let's experiment with different approaches. And then when we find things that work, stick with that, commit to it and follow through with that. Yes. And maybe there are some things that really drive action that we need to come to a point of necessity to drive our action, to know why we don't want to do anything anymore and to know why we do want to do something. And finally, flourish is a range of different needs, like a healthy body, emotional well-being, yes, productive thoughts, creativity, positive relationships, productive communication, and positive engagement.
Wow.
So it's a range of different needs there to help us with flourishing.
I just love the word flourish because it just brings out everything in people, and the analogy of leaf as well is something that is actually going to help somebody. It's connected with nature, but actually it's connected with the well-being as well. So tell us a bit about how you've actually helped someone in this situation who's applied your services.
I'll just give you an example starting from with Let Go. So I'm what's called a havening techniques practitioner, as you mentioned earlier. I'm a social worker and a coach, but I'm also a havening techniques practitioner, which is a relatively new therapeutic approach, which uses neuroscience and touch to help people let go of unhelpful emotions. And so I've worked with a range of people in and outside of work, that, for example, people who have got anger linked to an event in their past, childhood trauma, people with anxiety, social anxiety, people with bereavement, and people with panic attacks. And I'll give you an example of one person recently I worked with. He had a lifetime of panic, and the outside world, people wouldn't probably know that he had a panic attack. And I talk about this in my book, by the way, which I don't have with me right now, but you can see on my website. And this chap knew that this panic had started from a child. He tried many, many different approaches to try and deal with this panic. And it was related to when people asked him to help them, he would have a sense of internal panic. And after 2 sessions of this havening, it was gone.
Wow, 2 sessions.
2 sessions.
So it's that effective.
It's that effective.
That's incredible. So I suppose anybody who's watching this, who's listening to it, who may have suffered from any panic attacks or any stress-induced issues, bereavement. I know I was interested in the sleep problems, because that's a massive thing that people suffer from. With 2 sessions, wow! I mean, that sounds amazing. It sounds very cost-effective as well.
Indeed, it is, because what happened with me was after 30 or so years of trying different techniques with my own issues and not really getting to the resolution. Once I had this havening myself, and it was like, boom, happened. And I thought, right, well, that's it, I'm sold. And I need to bring this to the world.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And I know your books are incredible, and we've got some books with us today, but then we can show you a bit later on what these and how you can get hold of these books as well. But tell us a bit about you as a person, and about your what brought you to do this in the first place, because you're working as a social worker as well, and I know you've helped many social workers with the systems that you have through Havening and with the Leaf. But tell us a bit more about you, Jan.
Okay, well, I gave a little bit of a hint earlier about myself, and so taking us back to my childhood a little bit. I had a lot of change in my childhood. I went to many different schools.
Yes.
And then there was a traumatic event in my teens, which resulted in a family breaking down. And then I went off to school away from the family environment, and I was left to recover from that family breakdown on my own, outside of the bosom of the family. And at the time, no one really knew that there would be a negative impact from that. They thought they were doing good, and I'm grateful for that. However, the trauma stuck with me, and stuck with me into my working years. And it was a bit like, best way to describe it is that, imagine that we've all got a kind of a resilience bucket within us.
Yes.
And every day we're filling that resilience bucket with stress. And then, we go to sleep, and if we sleep well the next day, the bucket's empty. And we start again. That would be the great thing. However, because of my trauma that was unresolved, despite many different ways to try and resolve it, it never really got resolved. And so my resilience bucket, as with many other people's, was half full. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it was 50% full.
Yes.
And so every day that I went to my work, social work, particularly stressful job, but many jobs are stressful, aren't they, in this day and age. So, but every time I went to work, every day, stress would come into my resilience bucket, and it would get filled up, and sometimes even get to the point where the resilience bucket is overflowing with stress.
Wow.
And so, to begin with, in a job, I would my resilience bucket would probably be empty, and then towards the end of the job, it would start filling up. And what I found was that I was sensitive to managerial relationships, because from my own childhood experience, there was a kind of a distorted authority theme, and I had difficulty in my intimate relationships.
Okay.
As well, so relationships was an issue.
Wow.
But also, I was sensitive to the environment the organisation set me, and I didn't really know to begin with. But what I found was I was leaving organisations quite often. I didn't commit very well to organisations. So I felt a desire to get to a certain point to leave. And so, while that is provides diversity in one's career, it's also potentially a problem in relation to organisations having a stable, loyal staff team, staff base, workforce, if people are going to move on. Everyone's got their own stories, different stories, different reasons for
But
leaving.
I can see people resonating with this quite a lot, and every day, people working, employed in big organisations where they feel that bucket is absolutely overflowing when they get home from the end of the day. And there's also at the other end of the scale with, individuals and people who are struggling and don't really know what, treatments, situations, why this is happening, why this is occurring.
And people more like working from home as well these days,
Exactly.
It's like, well, we know that relationships have become more and more tense, personal relationships have become more intense as well with people working from home a lot.
Yeah, so there's been a big rise, as we know, in domestic violence.
Indeed,
and, obviously people going through bereavement with the pandemic situation and how that's actually affected a lot of people. So how can havening or the leaf model help these people who are going through these traumatic times right now?
So, this havening that I was explaining earlier, it's neuroscience informed. We've got research from Cardiff University, from King's College London, that of the effectiveness of this technique. I'll just do a quick kind of overview of the technique, part of the technique, and that is we're using skin and touch to generate a state of mind and body in a relaxed state, to engage the part of the nervous system which is called the parasympathetic nervous system, which we generate to bring rest and recovery when we're sleeping well, deep non-dreaming sleep at night. When we're stressed and we have chronic stress or trauma, we don't necessarily get the level of quality of sleep that we should be getting, unfortunately, which is actually what we've been seeing during the pandemic. People who haven't been sleeping as well.
Yeah, I think I've been feeling that as well. There's a lot of people who've got so many things on their mind and what they're going through, what they're experiencing. I think we've all reached extremes, haven't we?
And so people's buckets are full. By default,
Absolutely.
So this havening is about, partly it's about rubbing our hands together. That's one of the havening touch moves.
Okay.
And another one is rubbing our arms from our shoulders down to our elbows.
Okay, that's like a cleansing,
yeah,
isn't it?
Giving
It's
yourself
like a clearing, isn't it?
And a clearing as well.
Yeah, I like that. I might have a go myself, actually.
Have a go. Whoever's watching, have a go. And then if you've got clean hands, which I do, then it's rubbing our face as well. And sometimes, when we're stressed, we might just go, oh, God.
Yes.
Or like this. It's quite intuitive that this skin part of the face it brings a sense of relaxation. Yes. But that's not all of havening. There's another part of havening which is about actually thinking about the stress while doing this.
Okay.
And then some techniques in havening is not thinking about the stress at all and being distracted with really nice things, with things that that I talk about in Flourish, things that we're doing that are creative, with some stuff that we love to do, like our hobbies, or actually the other distractions are just thinking about walking along a beach and enjoying that.
So a bit of mindfulness then.
A bit of mindfulness in there as well. And certainly the objective is to get to a place of peace, inner peace, where the engine of the unhelpful emotional electrochemical, we call it in havening, is quieting down.
Oh, that sounds amazing. We can't all go and have that walk on the beach, can we?
Exactly. But reality happens twice, doesn't it?
Yes.
First in the imagination.
Yes.
And then in reality.
Yeah.
So we make the most of that in havening.
That's fantastic. So if anyone wants to find out more, then we're going to give some details a bit later on how you can connect with Jan if you're resonating with anything that we're talking about today. So I'm certainly fascinated by this whole system, and as an entrepreneur, juggling all of these things, you seem to have a very, very calm approach, Jan. And so practicing what you preach is very much something that you resonate with as well, in your family and personal life, and you've used that personal experience that you engaged and then wanted to turn that around and give other people the opportunity to not go through those traumatic things, even though they are, to create that safety net for them and give them that, that support with what you do. So absolutely hands off to you. It's amazing.
Thank you. Saving time and money.
Saving time and money is what we all
took me
want.
30 years to recover. What if we could do it much quicker than that?
And you have the solution to do that through Leaf. And so please do check this out, because it is so, so important. So tell us a little bit about the 3 different areas of how you can help people, because we talked about the PRO. I'll let you explain what the PRO actually
resilience.
stands for, what that means.
Yeah. So, earlier on I told you about my story. I talked about my personal story. I also talked about relationships and how they've been affected, and also my experience in organisations.
You did, yes.
PRO. Pro-resilience.
Love it.
Or proactive resilience.
We love that.
Thank
we
you.
like something we can resonate with.
Something
it's easy
memorable,
to remember.
Exactly. And so I've talked about havening in relation to personal resilience. We also have a brainwave technology, neurofeedback technology, where we can put a brainwave band on people's heads and show them their brainwaves in action on an iPhone app or on an Android app. And the objective of that is to identify whether systemically you are in a state of stress. You might not feel it, but you actually might be. So it's feedback. But those are the kind of 2 examples. There are others. But also in relation to relationships, I explained earlier that sometimes we end up working with people that jar us.
Yes.
And it's like, well, why is that? And I was curious about that.
So that business relationships?
In business relationships, yeah. Okay. So like leaders, for example, everywhere I've gone, there seems to have been at least one manager or leader that has been a bit likeable in a china shop, for want of a better phrase.
So there's some personalities, isn't it? You get different personalities in organisations.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they don't serve a purpose. They do. But sometimes these people can be dominant, they can be results-oriented, that sounds pretty good, but also can be insensitive. But there are these, I use a psychometric profiling tool called DISC, DISC, and what we do is we identify people with their personality styles, or actually we don't call them personality styles because everyone can behave different in different situations. We call them behaviour styles. And so what we do is we learn about our behaviour style, and we learn about the styles of our employees or our colleags, and then teams can then flex to the different styles of the people they're talking to. Everyone starts to learn a new language, and communication improves, and interference in communication reduces. And just need to mention here that I very much appreciate Timothy Galway's coach. He wrote the book, The Inner Game of Tennis and the Inner Game of Work, and he talks about a formula: potential minus interference equals performance. And so in letting go of unhelpful emotions and letting go of unhelpful communication styles, we're reducing the interference and we're allowing potential to come through, and then we're also allowing performance to more likely to improve.
And they can do this through the Leaf
through
method.
the Leaf. They do that for us, yes. And so in Power we bring the DISC psychometric profiling. We also bring, from an organisational resilience perspective, we bring other tools that we measure the situation with. So we actually have a wellbeing diagnostic that individuals can use, or whole organisations or teams can use to test the temperature of their wellbeing resilience at that moment.
And that's fantastic. I like that it's science-backed. I like that it's a recognised tool that's used in the industry and backed up by your expertise and skill set as well. And there's been a lot of work into neuroscience and the effects of the brain and how that affects us with our emotions, with our behaviours, with our attitudes, with how we actually approach life, isn't it, in general? But then, compounded with all that is all the stuff that's been going around with, the pandemic and people losing their jobs or the bereavements and you know, I know there's also stories about people hoarding things and,
Yeah.
you know, not being able to let go, but, you know, that sense of not wanting to let go. And
I
it's
work
just,
with hoarders.
do you work with hoarders?
Using
Wow.
havening techniques.
So
yeah.
coming up to Christmas time, you know,
Yeah.
coming up to, you know, a time of year,
Yeah.
we're going into New Year, you know, what are you hanging on to? Is there something that you need to let go of?
Yeah,
that
let
maybe-
go in the mind stuff. Helps
Jan
to
can
let go
help you.
of stuff outside of your mind.
Yeah, Jan can help you with that. So I know you like collaborating with people who work in those industries as well, to connect with them, to help more people, because clearly your skills are needed. So is there anything else you want to share with us about your services?
Just to mention that I'm a partner of an organisation called Engagement Multiplier, which provides employee engagement services with a difference.
Ah, okay.
And this is about the measuring and empower your
So
engagement.
that's called
and
Engagement Multiplier. Okay.
And they also survey employees every 90 days, and the idea is that we get a temperature check of the organisation, and they give some pointers, of very small pointers, small number of questions that are asked. You can get light touch, get some pertinent questions. What can leadership do to change? If I was to ask leadership what to do, what they could do, what could they do to change? Yes. And then the leaders then get that information, and they've got 90 days to do something, to change something. And then if you do that every 90 days, then by the end of the year, you've got progress.
And we know the 90-day plan always works.
90-day plan always works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we are
like that
utilising the LEAF model and the 90-day kind of sprint approach.
Okay.
And, you know, we know that action, if we don't act, you know, classic scenario with organisations doing the employee engagement, annual employee engagement, is that you do it once a year, it goes quiet after and then people go, well, what's the benefit?
And there's
what
no
actually
consistency, is there? There's no consistency, no accountability.
Their voice was given, but it wasn't heard.
Yes.
And how does that add value? How does that result in empowering staff? So it helps them to see that action.
So when we were talking earlier, we talked about you know, productivity at work, and empowering staff, managers, leaders to get on with their job, get on with their work. I mean, I suppose the same applies to self-employed, people who are running their own businesses as well as individuals, is how are they given those tools to enable them to be more productive at work, be happier in their daily life, and build better relationships at all levels. So, you know, you talked about intimacy at one level, but also how is that affecting the relationships at all levels? Because it does have an impact.
Of course it does. Yeah.
So what else can you share with us on that level of productivity? If there's companies out there who are thinking, oh my goodness, you know, we can't get the staff, we're losing staff, we're big turnover of staff in organisations, which we're hearing about a lot. How can this help them claw that back and keep their talent?
I mean, this is a personal issue right now, isn't it? You know, it's like the Great Resignation drive right now, isn't it? And we're in unusual times. People are leaving organisations, and so and it's costly. You know, if employees, you know, let's just say an average employee earns 30,000, may cost 15,000 to for someone to leave, to recruit, to induct them back in. Just, you know, if you've got 200 employees, and 25% are moving on, then the money's going to add up. So you know, we are offering organisations through Engagement Multiplier a free survey, 30-day survey, for every single employee.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And that can be for engagement, but also well-being, mental health and well-being. And then that will test the temperature of where they are right now. We'll be able to identify, locate where there are problems in the organisation, hone in on those where those issues are happening, and then we can provide workshops around those themed topics, around personal resilience, relationship resilience, and organisational resilience at the people level.
That's
Excuse me. So I've got books to give away. Sorry, oh my gosh, you're so excited. You're like, you're starting to cough about it.
I know. Where's the water?
Sorry.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
Okay.
Oh, forgive me for this, apologies. I need your services clearly.
Okay, should we do some havening?
We'll do some havening. Okay, so just what I wanted to say was let's just, to wrap up,
Yeah.
what would you say, you can offer to your clients and to your prospective clients for anybody who's listening?
Okay, so from a business perspective, we've got that 30-day free survey for all employees, actually up to 1,000 staff, but sort of aiming for around about 200 staff, from 10 to 200. We've got some books to give away regarding buying engagement multiplier, and there's some books to actually give away for people that contact me via the website. If you go to my website, there's a section in contact. Personal resilience, relationship resilience, and organisational resilience. Click on the one that you're interested in. And then I've also got some books called Winning Mindset to give away, in which I am the author of one chapter. And I'll be giving that away to people who are interested in personal resilience.
So tell us what your website is. How can we find you?
Website is www.turnovernewleaf.co.uk. And you can email me on info@turnovernewleaf.co.uk.
That's fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure. I apologise for my throat today. It's time of the year, isn't it?
It is indeed.
But it's been absolutely
Thank
delightful
you so much for
see you today and to see you here today and to learn all about your amazing services. So I highly advise you get in touch with Jan. Thank you very much, Jan.
Thank you. Thank you.